Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, world. This is Louis Patrone bringing you Tuesday Talk with Key West Lou live this October 15th, 2013. What a crazy week. Normally, it's crazy things happening all over the world, but the United States can take credit for it this week. This has been the craziest of the crazy times in our country. I can't understand what's going on, how we all know. And it's a terrible thing, and I'm going to talk about it a bit. If you want to call in and discuss any of these things with me, the number is 646-478-5731. 646-478-5731. I am happy to hear from you. Let's talk about the government shutdown. I'm not going to bore you with anything. You read about it. You see it on TV. You hear it in the paper. Your neighbors are talking about it. The people in the coffee shop are talking about it. The people at the gas stations are talking about it. This is absolutely ridiculous. We have a shutdown. We have a debt limit problem. Everything's got to happen by midnight tomorrow night, or we're in economic bad straits, or I think we are. The Tea Party people apparently don't, but I think we're going to have some economic problems. How bad, I don't know, because we've never been here before. The problem is with that small group of Tea Party people, 30 or 40 in the House of Representatives. The problem is also with Speaker John Boehner. He apparently likes to be Speaker. If he stands up to this small minority in the House of Representatives, he's going to lose his job as Speaker. Is it better to be a man or to kowtow to some people? I mean, the title was nice, being Speaker. It was the ultimate probably he could hope for in his career. Big deal, third in line for president also. But you can't sell your soul to stay in office. He will be more respected and perhaps known in history, or better known, if he does the right things and puts the bill on the floor of the House of Representatives and lets everyone vote their will, because between the Republicans and the Democrats, the thing will pass and will avoid the problem. Now, let me talk about some of the things that are happening here. And this is happening today. Senator Ted Cruz. This guy is trouble. This is Senator McCarthy all over again. He is the one who is rabble-rousing, is a better word, in leading the House of Representatives. They were going to take down Obamacare. Now they don't even talk about Obamacare. 2 weeks later, because they knew they were dead. They found out they were dead on that issue. Anyhow, last night, Senator Cruz and 15 to 20, this has been reported on all the media, 15 to 20 House of Representatives Tea Party people met in the cellar of a Mexican restaurant 1.5 blocks from the White House. There were pictures not only of the restaurant on TV today, but also the cellar. Now, this isn't a fancy, finished-off cellar. This is a place with a lot of junk in it, but they apparently went down in that cellar so no one would know they were there. Well, Washington, I guess, is a small town in reality. There was another Republican who was having dinner in this Mexican restaurant, who's a moderate, and he saw them, and he told people, why not? So first of all, they're having the secret meeting in the cellar of a Mexican restaurant. It's their right to have a meeting. They can do it someplace else, though. And today, the Heritage Foundation, you know, the outfit now run by Senator DeMint, the organization that is conservative Republican, so far to the right that they fall off of the edge of the right. They are the big-time supporters of the Tea Party. A letter was sent today by the Heritage Foundation to the Tea Party people in the House of Representatives, telling them not to agree to anything the Senate passed, not to agree to any bill because the whole purpose of all this, at least from the Heritage's perspective, was to take down and do away and repeal, in effect, Obamacare. And since that had not been accomplished, they should remain, and this is my terminology, hard ass. So this is what's going on here. This Heritage Foundation, let me tell you right now, are bad people. They represent the money people in the far right of the Republican Party, the Koch brothers and people like that. The corporate America, the super billionaires, maybe trillionaires, I don't know, super billionaires. There has been a concept in this country growing over the last 10 years that the people are not equipped to govern themselves. You heard me. We made it 250 years. We screw up a lot, but the people are not equipped to govern themselves. They're not smart enough. They don't know how. And that the people best equipped to operate, to run, and to govern this country and to make everyday decisions are the multi-billionaires. Because after all, they succeeded in the corporate world. And these are the people that support the Heritage Foundation. And they literally want to take over the running of this country. All right, and this whole thing, by the way, started back under Bush, too. It isn't a new thing. This was Cheney's baby. He was pushing it. They were talking about, at one time, and this was Cheney's idea, we're going to take Canada, the United States, and Mexico and make them one country. Didn't go very far, but it's all tied in. Anyhow, that's going on. Then we have the demonstration before the World War II memorial with the veterans this past weekend, which then ended up in front of the White House, Senator Cruz again, and Palin's back. Sarah Palin is back. And other people. There was some fellow for some organization who was a real nut. He said the President Obama should get off his knees and throw away the Koran, and he should leave the country. He is a Muslim also. And this kind of talk was going on. And Cruz and Palin, they're with the rabble-rousers. And then there's the Confederate flag some people are carrying. Insult of insults. Black president in front of his house, our house, the White House, a Confederate flag. Crazy, the whole thing. Now, let me tell you where we are. A credit bureau today has already said, they stated, that the United States is in a negative area. It's now got 3 stars credit-wise. It could go down. Could go down to a 2. It could go down to a 1. Because of this upheaval, we don't know. There's no certainty in the markets. We are supposed to be the strongest country in the world. We're supposed to know what we're doing. Everyone looks to us for direction. No more. This is seriously affecting our status and standing in the world. China announced yesterday. China yesterday called for a new currency in the world. Forget the American dollar, they said. We want a new currency, gold backed. We're not gold backed with our money, by the way, folks. And why? Because the Americans, as they are presently operating, have de-Americanized themselves, and de-Americanized, as China put it, that's their verbiage, de-Americanized their status in the world. It's all based on the instability in America, based on our domestic turmoil, and they're right, we have domestic turmoil. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't know. I'm glued to the TV set almost 24 hours a day. I hope bad things don't happen. Moving on. I'm going to be critical of the Catholic bishops in the United States and the issue of birth control. This has to do with the shutdown also. The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops had a big issue, if you recall, during the development and the writing of Obamacare. They didn't want any free contraceptives for women for birth control purposes. The issue came up. You have Catholic-run institutions. Why should the employer, who the church does not believe in birth control, have to provide these insurance to provide birth control, condoms in effect, and other things to women who wanted them. The thing was straightened out, so everyone was happy. About 10 days ago, the United States Conference of Bishops president is Timothy Dolan, Cardinal Timothy Dolan, Archbishop of New York, a big guy, a jovial guy, a fat guy, and the fat becomes important in a minute. A letter was sent to all of the members of the House of Representatives asking that they shut down the government. You heard me. The Catholic bishops are asking, this was the whole thrust of the letter, shut down the government of the United States unless the birth control issue is resolved the way we want it. Throw it out of Obamacare. Okay? As long as you got a religious employer of some sort that doesn't want it, throw it out of Obamacare. If you can't achieve this, shut down the government of the United States. Now, I found this very amusing because Pope Francis, about a week before, said, you know, gays, birth control, abortion, the church has been obsessed with these things for too many years. We've been too doctrinaire. We have to take a new look at things like gays, birth control, and abortion. And the whole world said terrific, because this has been, these three things are the primary reasons for the downfall of the church. And you can throw pedophilia in. Birth control has been a big issue in the Catholic Church with its members, and that's why a lot of members don't go to church anymore. Because 50 years ago, 40 years ago, when families needed to practice birth control, the church says, oh no, you can't do that. It's a mortal sin. Do you know how many women suffered like hell, had children they couldn't handle? Because God said, the church said, you cannot wear a condom, you cannot practice birth control. In any event, the Pope having said this, and a week later, Cardinal Dolan sends this letter out, shut down the government of the United States over the birth control issue. Now, maybe he didn't read or hear what the Pope said. On the other hand, I think he did. I think the Pope is number one, numero uno in the church, and the cardinal is below him, but he isn't going to listen to him. Our cardinal of bishops in the United States have become independent of sorts. They have been empowered because they stand on many issues with the religious radical right in this country of the Republican Party. They're down on women. They're down on nuns. And so, who's the bishop? Who's the Pope? He did what he wanted, Dolan. Now, I told you he was a big fat man, and the reason I did that was not to make fun of him. I could afford to lose a few pounds, but he's much bigger than I am, and I hope I never get that big. Under the shutdown presently in existence, there is a program called WIZ. WIZ provides formula and milk to babies whose mothers cannot afford to buy the milk. We're talking about 1 week, 2 week, 1 month, 2 month, 3-month-old babies. WIZ program. And because of the shutdown, my friends, ain't no WIZ money, and the babies are not getting government-provided milk and formula. Now, I'm sure the mothers are making do somehow, but maybe not as good and as well as before. And all I'm saying to you, if the Cardinal Timothy Dolan, can sit down and eat his big meals while the government of the United States is shut down and become bigger and bigger and fatter, doesn't he think of these babies? We are all God's children, the Pope said. And I believe he believes this. But he didn't think about it. There are people suffering, and I'm giving you the most basic example, babies who got their everyday formula and milk from this federal program that doesn't have money to operate because of the shutdown. For shame, Catholic Church Bishops Association, and Cardinal Timothy Dolan. Now let's go into another thing. I love Congress. I love what these people do. They want to cut Social Security. They want to screw the old. Cut Social Security, cut Medicare. They want to screw the sick. Let's get rid of Obamacare. They want to deprive the poor of food. Let's cut $40 billion off of food stamps. And on and on. It doesn't make sense to me. These are the fellows who we send to Congress, House of Representatives and Senators. Let me tell you what they retire on, okay? First of all, if you're in the Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate, 5 years, you're totally vested. Try to do that in private business. Totally vested after 5 years. Since 2002, the retirement pension has been between $41,000 a year to $50,000 a year. Prior to 2002, they had a different formula which paid these guys more money who retired before 2002. They're getting between $40,000 a year and $71,000 a year. At the present time, there are 527 retired congressmen in this federal congressional pension plan. 527. They're averaging, like, as I said, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 a year. At the same time, and here's the point I want to make, my friends, that the average Social Security check is $1,160. $1,160. For shame. Not for shame, the $1,160. For shame that these men have these great pensions, which they voted themselves in most instances. Shame that the people that followed them want to cut Social Security, primarily the Republicans. Shame. When your senior citizens get $1,160 a year on an average, and you're walking around with $40,000 to $71,000 from the same government. And that's not the money you put in the pension plan. Every penny we get back in Social Security, we put into the pension plan. Every penny these congressmen get in retirement, they did not put that money into the pension plan. Now we're going to move over to Egypt. We live in a wonderful country. It is. The United States, in spite of all our problems, like we're going through a major one now, and all our defects, and all our warts and pimples, we're still a great country. I mean, we have such freedom here. Look at Cruz. All the nasty things he said about Obama in this country last Sunday with the World War II vets. And look at Sarah Palin, all the terrible things she said. And then this guy who's head of some radical right society for the last 20 years said Obama should get off his knees, give the Koran back, leave the country. We permit our citizens to openly and severely criticize our political leaders and our political organization. How many times? He was born in Kenya. He's not a citizen. I don't believe that's his birth certificate. I haven't seen the original. Well, let me tell you what happened in Egypt so you can better appreciate our country, and I'm sure you do already. There's a fellow by the name of Madhi Akif. Madhi Akif's 85 years old. He is one of the former leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood. You know what the Muslim Brotherhood is? They're the organization that got elected about 2 years ago, except they turned out to be extremists, Islamic extremists. And even though they were duly elected, they were Islamic extremists. And after a year in office, the military took over Egypt. And they arrested the president. He's sitting in jail now, Morsi. They're going to put him on trial for something they claim he did wrong. Well, Akif has been arrested this past week. And do you know what he got arrested for? You have to understand, Morsi's going on trial, the former president, a member of his Muslim Brotherhood, and other people. He said that the Egyptian judiciary, the Egyptian judicial process, the Egyptian judge were, and I quote, sick and corrupt. That's all he said. They are sick and corrupt. He got arrested this past week, okay? And he's going to stand trial because there is a law in Egypt that says you cannot criticize the judiciary if your criticism constitutes an insult. And sick and corrupt constitutes an insult, apparently, or they're saying so under Egyptian law. So when you knock our country, those of you who do, remember, we are a great place. We do have many liberties and freedoms. What Cruz is saying and Palin is saying, and that other guy who said Obama should get up off his knees, they would be in jail if we had the Egyptian laws here. No way, Jose, would they beat it. Let's talk about Germany for a moment. I wrote a blog on this about a year and a half ago. I wrote a column for Conclave, the weekly newspaper, about the same time. I talked about what I'm going to repeat again here tonight on my television internet show at the same time. And I would say to you, do we ever learn? Do people ever learn? I take the position, and you understand what I'm going to say. Germany started World War I. Germany started World War II. I said a year and a half ago, and I'm saying today again, if there is a third world war, it is not going to start in the Middle East. It is going to start in Europe, and it's going to be caused by Germany. I'm not a great historian, though I majored in history or anything else, or political scientist, but I spent 2 months last year in Europe, and I spent 2 months this past year. I learned a lot in those 4 months. And here's what I have to say. 15, 17 years ago, Germany and, 15 other nations got together, and we're going to have one kind of money, the euro, and we're all going to get rich off this and make money. And it didn't work, as you all know. All you have to do is look at Turkey, Cyprus, Greece, Italy, Portugal, Spain. These countries are dying. The people are overtaxed. People are out of work. More than half the population is out of work. Babies can't be fed. Fathers can't feed their families in Greece. I've seen it. I've stood in those demonstrations and listened to the people. Okay, so and who screwed this whole thing up? Germany, because of the euro. Germany's the only one who succeeded. Germany is rich today. They weren't this rich when they got into this thing, but they're smart people, and they work it. It's their money that's being loaned. They want it back. They can't get it back. But Germany, no one will argue with me, came out #1 in this whole euro thing, and we're going to be a euro community. Well, Germany now wants all these euro nations, some 15 out of them, to join together and have one army and navy, one military force. Okay? And this was mentioned in the paperwork that put this whole thing together 15 years ago. But right now, Germany wants a combined military, and they don't want it. The euro nations don't want it. We're getting screwed with the euro dollar. What's going to happen with the military? We're all in one. So Germany suggested, instead of getting together all at one time, let's create islands, quote unquote islands. 2 or 3 countries get together and have one military, and then after a while, when you see that works, they'll all join together into one big euro army and navy. The only problem with this whole thing is, guess who Germany said should be numero uno, should be the leader of the army and the navy. You got it. Whether it's an island or it's the whole thing, Germany says they should be boss. Can you imagine putting guns and planes and ships in the hands of the same people that caused 2 world wars? They'll cause a third one, my friends. And the other thing is, a German think tank came out this week, a big one. I can't remember the name of it. That's not important. But they support Merkel, the president of Germany. And they came, and Merkel, of course, is in support of this. She wants the army and navy with Germany, the head of it, for all of Europe. And they came out in support of Merkel's concept this week, the concept of one military, with Germany at the head of the Air Force and the Navy. Germany wants the Air Force and the Navy. Beware. Okay, let's move on to some congressional waste. I told you last week about the Senate barbershop. I keep repeating it. I love it. It hits you right in the face. The senators of the United States have their own private barbershop supported by tax dollars at the Capitol, next door to the Capitol, I don't know where, someplace nearby. It's financed with tax dollars. The senators pay $3.50 for a haircut, only since 1978. They've had their own barbershop since the early 1800s. It's all paid for with tax dollars. And guess what? It runs at a deficit every year of $500,000. They're $500,000 short every year. And do you know who makes up that deficit? You and I, with our tax dollars. That's governmental waste. Moving on, some new stuff you haven't heard from me yet. This is terrible what I'm going to I laugh when I talk about these things. It's so bad, I can't believe they do it. The Air Force said we need 21 new cargo planes. They were C-27Js. We need them right away. The House of Representatives authorizes money in this country. So we authorize, our House of Representatives, the people who want to cut $40 billion from food stamps, authorized the money. It was more than 587 to build these airplanes. Well, along the way, it was determined by the Air Force that they no longer needed the airplanes after 12 were built and 5 were in the process of being built. They didn't need the airplanes. They couldn't stop construction on the 5 that weren't finished because the language put into the law authorizing the money for the planes said, in effect, if the money's budgeted, it must be spent regardless. This is how these contracts read. There was a recent contract, for example, for Global Hawk drones that had language in it that the law, and it is the law authorizing the money, cannot retire, prepare to retire, or put in storage these Global Hawk drones, which means, in effect, once you authorize it, you got to finish it and make them. Even if you don't need them, we don't care. We want the money. Corporate America, lobbyists. Okay, so what did they do with these planes? You had 12 new ones. They put them in the boneyard in Arizona. In Arizona is a place in the desert where there's 4,400 airplanes. It's a scrap pace, actually. So we put 12 new cargo planes out there, and the people from all over the world who need parts go to this boneyard, as it's called, in Arizona and take the parts out, and it's a buy and sell arrangement. It's a salvage yard. It's a junkyard. With the 5 planes that weren't done, they finished them because the language said you have to finish what you got to spend the money for the purpose for which it was authorized. And then those 5 planes, cargo planes, followed the 12 planes that were done. Now you got 17 planes in the boneyard. Never used. Never used. It cost $587 million just for those 17 planes. Never used. Put in a boneyard, going to be sold for scrap metal. Fortunately, somebody got wise and told Congress, you better not keep doing this. And they stopped these guys. They didn't do the last 5. Well, one other thing on governmental waste. 2004, we made new camouflage uniforms for the Army because we had wood, land, environmental colors, and we had desert colors. We decided we needed one color. We came up with a new camouflage outfit. You see the fellas wearing it, the Army people in the airports and everything. Called Universal Camouflage Pattern. Cost $5 billion, 2004. The government has decided now they don't work. They're not working in the Middle East. They're not protecting our people, camouflaging them. So they're now spending $4 billion more to create a new and better camouflage outfit because the first one does not work properly. That is my show for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell your friends to listen. I enjoy speaking. I enjoy talking with you on these issues. And so until next week, my friends, I bid you adieu. I look forward to talking to you again next week, and thank you once again for joining me.